Right, okay. We're now, I'm just clicking go live.
Yeah. Do you want to take them out, Phil?
Yeah, we'll do. We're now live. I'll do a remove. That's fine.
Okay. Good. Ready?
Yep, ready.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Wednesday Night Live, Edgware United's weekly chat show. Our first event was at the start of July, some 7 months ago. We had speakers lined up thus far until the end of May, with more to follow. The impact of coronavirus has affected all our lives. The ability to transmit to you through Zoom has transformed our lives in so many ways. Today is Holocaust Memorial Day. We remember those who have perished and mourn their loss. May these atrocities never, ever happen again. Yet the Uyghurs are currently facing what many are calling a genocide in China. How timely it is that next week our topic is the plight of the Uyghurs must not be ignored. Our guest speaker is Rahima Mahmoud, a Uyghur human rights activist and an award-winning translator. She is the UK project director of the World Uyghur Congress and advisor to the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China. It should be an extremely interesting evening. Please join us then. This evening, on something lighter and looking forward to, this evening I'm delighted to welcome our guest speaker, Nikki Mann. I've known Nikki for many a year, and she's travelled here to be with us this evening all the way from Bushy. Nikki is a nutrition advisor. She will get back to the basics of healthy eating advice and what constitutes a healthy and balanced diet. She will talk about the risks of being overweight and how to gain an energy balance. She will also provide a few tips on cutting the calories in the food we all enjoy. Nikki, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening. As David said, my name's Nikki and I'm a nutrition advisor. I am going to share my screen because I have a presentation. I trust that you will still be able to see some of the faces around the shared screen. So I'm going to do that now.
Can I just add one thing? If anybody wishes to ask any questions at any time during the evening, whether it's during Nikki's presentation or at the end, if you would indicate that through the chat room, or if you would show your virtual hand, and Phil will recognize you and allow you in, and we look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to ask whenever. I think there's only 24 of us, so I think it's manageable if you want to ask questions as we go through. It's actually probably gives us a better, a more relaxed atmosphere to the evening rather than me just talking away. So I've already introduced myself, as has David. So as David said, I'm just going to talk about how to get a healthy, balanced diet for well-being and health. I am a nutrition advisor and I work with private clients, usually on a one-to-one basis, to look at the nutrients they eat for all kinds of reasons, for weight loss, weight gain, or just to be more healthy. So the brief was, I'm not sure I had a brief actually, I probably made this up, was to talk about nutrition and healthy living. Well, that's what I'm going to do anyway, whether that was my brief or not, I don't know. But that's what we're going to talk about. So if you weren't expecting that, I guess it's your opportunity to go and watch something else. So what I'm going to talk about is basically scientifically based, it's evidence-based, and it's largely what is put out by the government and the public health institutes. So it's not fad diets, it's not internet stuff although it's available on the internet, it's well charted, accepted dietary advice. So we've got 4 things that have a massive effect on our health and our impact on the risk of being at risk of certain diseases. And they are smoking, drinking, nutrition, which is the one I'm going to concentrate on, and physical activity. I will talk a little bit about drinking and physical activity, majoring on nutrition, but smoking, as we know, is a bit of a no-no, but that's probably the last time I'm going to mention it. But those are the 4 things. Oh, nutrition flashed then, didn't it? Didn't know I had any animation. So a little bit about health behaviour first, which, as you can see there, is any action taken by a person to maintain and regain good health and to prevent illness. Now, health behaviour reflects a person's health beliefs. And health beliefs are what you actually believe, to the extent of which you're in control of your actions when it comes to your health. So do you actually believe that controlling your diet, doing more exercise or whatever will actually have an effect? Or is it down to some higher power or you're born with heavy genes or whatever? So all that is wrapped up in your ability, in your health beliefs and in your ability to change. So changing isn't easy. So why do it? Well, it obviously has maintaining a healthy weight, healthy eating, being generally well-being will help developmental growth. It will decrease the risk of developing disease, which we'll talk about a little bit more in subsequent slides. And it does help you look, feel, and perform better. So there's something in it for all of us if we try and do this. But as I said, changing isn't easy, and that's why people, I guess, employ people like me. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it ourselves. So the bad news is that 66% of men and 57% of women are overweight or obese, which does lead to the diseases or the risk of suffering the diseases listed there. There's a really, really strong association with type 2 diabetes. But a quote from the cancer research is that obesity is the biggest single cause of cancer after smoking in the UK. And it increases the risk of 13 cancers, including bowel, breast, post-menopause, kidney and pancreatic cancer. So it's worth doing. The good news is that 10% weight loss can reduce all of those risks. And I like this cartoon. I'm still not sure it's in the right place, but I like this cartoon because it is exactly what it says on the can. Eat less and exercise more. That's the most ridiculous fad diet I've ever heard of yet. Well, it's not, because basically that's what it's about. So a word about malnutrition, because I'd like to keep this balanced. Clearly, not eating enough is also a risky strategy, particularly as people get older. 10% of the over 65s in the UK are affected by malnutrition, which is actually really shocking. That's probably all I'm going to say about malnutrition, unless anyone's particularly interested in it. But more good news, and I guess it's the same good news, is a healthy balanced diet will help maintain a healthy weight. That's what you need to do. So let's have a look at the measurements. I'm going to talk a little bit about BMI, which is body mass index. You can see there, that is the equation. It's weight in kilograms over height in meters squared. It's an equation. That's all it is. It gives you a number, which is listed on the left-hand side. So if you're under 18.5, you're classified as underweight. A healthy weight is 18.5 to 25, an overweight 25 to 30, and as you can see, obese and morbidly obese follow from that. It's a very crude measure. It's it's a guide to what a healthy weight might be, but clearly it doesn't take into account your build, it doesn't take into account your muscle mass or any other features, because it's used for everyone. But so what we tend to do is we tend to couple it up with other things. In the main, the tape measures there for waist and hip measurements, which is always quite a laugh to do it over Zoom these days, particularly for men, to find their waist seems to be a big challenge. I can stand up and demonstrate, which is what I have to do with my clients, but I don't think I'll bother tonight. So, getting the balance. We're talking a lot about balance tonight. This one in particular is about the energy balance, and it's back to my favorite cartoon. If you eat more than you use, you will put on weight. Energy consumed is greater than energy expenditure, you will put on weight. Fat stores will increase and you'll put on weight. If it's the opposite is true, if your energy expenditure is greater than your energy consumed, i.e. you use more than you take in, you start breaking down your fat stores and you will lose weight. A little bit at the bottom, energy consumed, it just says that you take in all your energy, and if you want to think of them as calories, because that's a unit of energy, you take them all in carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and alcohol. And basically, you use everything up in, which is your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, which is your physiological functions, thermogenesis, and physical activity. Thermogenesis is the bit in between physiological activity and physical activity. It's basically activity that you do. So it could be fidgeting, it could be how much you move your body when you move. So it's anything that's not actually physical activity, but it's quite important. It's not a major amount, and there's not a lot you can do about it. So really we need to concentrate on what we put in our mouths and how much physical activity we do. So nourish yourself. As I said before, a healthy diet is achievable. What we're going to talk about tonight is based on current guidelines and is evidence-based. If you think of your body as a car, you wouldn't knowingly put the wrong type of petrol in your car, or you wouldn't knowingly put the petrol in your diesel car, and so on and so forth. So you have to think about what you're putting in your body. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next few pages. So here we go, energy intake. So this is this is the bit about what you put in your mouth, and I've already said that all your calories, all your energy that you're putting in will come from carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These are what's called macronutrients. The only other thing you get energy from, which aren't these three, as I've already said, is alcohol. Alcohol has no nutrients in it, but it does contain calories, so therefore you get energy from it. I don't know, I've never found that. I always find it makes me go to sleep, but anyway, so I'm told. So what are the three types of macronutrients we've got there? Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates basically are our prime source of energy. For organs, your brain uses it all the time. You're using up energy by your brain, all bodily functions and all activity. Carbohydrates are split into two sections mainly. There's the complex carbohydrates, which are more known as starchy carbohydrates, and there's simple carbohydrates, which are basically sugar. So the sugar can be natural sugar or it can be added sugar. So it would be fructose, lactose, or sucrose, which is the sugar we add at the table. Obviously, simple sugars are very easy to break down and they hit our bloodstream very quickly. The more complex ones, the starchy ones, obviously take longer because they have many units of sugar in them and they take longer to break down. They also, therefore, provide a slower release of energy. We are advised that 50% of your diet should come from carbohydrates. It's actually 50 to 55% should come from carbohydrates because it is the prime source of energy. And before you do anything else, you need energy. Proteins I like to think of as the building blocks. They're there to repair, grow, maintain body tissues. They are actually enzymes and hormones. So some of the proteins are actually in the form of the enzymes and hormones that we know about. So obviously really important for the body. We tend to get our proteins from meat, fish, plant-based proteins, and dairy also contains quite a lot of proteins. And then the final source, the final macronutrient, is our fats, or lipids, you sometimes see them called. They have so many functions. They help us protect. The visceral fat you hear sometimes is actually protecting your organs. They transport vitamins around the body. They provide insulation. They are a reserve source of energy, and they look after your skin. There's others. They are fats are good for you. So some fats are good for you. Some aren't. We'll talk about that in a while. They basically split into saturated fats, which tend to come from animal sources. Now, saturated fats are the ones we should be trying to cut down or avoid. They're usually solid at room temperature, and there is a causal link between that and a increased risk of heart disease. So we should be aiming for the unsaturated fat, which are usually liquid at room temperature, and they have a lot of benefits, including actually reducing blood cholesterol. The one type of fat that you might see on labels is hydrogenated fat or trans fat. Now, that is the one that we should avoid at all costs, because that is where manufacturers take an unsaturated fat and actually make it saturated to change its feel. So if you get margarines, but all margarines used to contain it, because then you took your oil and made it into margarine and made it, so you actually change the shape of the fat. That's why it's called a trans fat. And that in doing that is a really dangerous fat, and we're advised to completely avoid that. Most manufacturers have stopped doing it now. So that's fine. Apart from it, actually, it's really difficult. How do you know what you're eating? So you've got carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So I know that everything comes from those, but how do I know what I'm eating? Yes, protein is meat. Yes, carbohydrates come from pasta and bread. And yes, fats we can get from our oil or some dairy products. But all foods contain a mixture, probably, of all of them. Eggs, I think, are an exception. They only contain protein and fat. They don't contain any carbohydrates. But most foods contain a bit of all of these. So how do we actually know what we're eating? The answer is you learn to know which type of food have more of them. So you can say your pasta will contain a lot more carbohydrate than your chicken. So you learn which foods can provide those sources. So because it's quite complicated, and you don't know what you're eating because all foods contain all macros, or most macros, there's a lovely handy guide put out by the government, which I actually have on my notice board immediately above me, and I'm going to show you in a minute, called the Eat Well Guide. You might have seen it. I'd like to think that every doctor has a picture of it on their wall in the surgery. I don't think that's true, but I think they should.
Apart from the bread, it looks like a Seder plate. It
does a bit, doesn't it, David? I can't see the bitter herbs, though, or the marrow. Anyway, unlike your Seder plate, it's multicoloured I don't know why it's multicoloured, I suppose it makes it clearer. So it is basically, it used to be called the Eat Well plate, but I think that gave the wrong idea, because that suggests that you should be eating all that on one plate, and clearly you won't be. I think it's the Eat Well guide because it's a guide to what you should be eating in your diet, in your whole intake. So this round bit, or it's not round, is it? It's kind of an oval shape in the middle, is basically what your diet should consist of. And this gets through the, I wonder what I'm eating, because it tells you here, if you look at the yellow bit, it's very big, possibly just over a third, which is your carbohydrate, mainly your carbohydrates. Potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, and other starchy carbohydrates. The green section are the fruit and veg, which are also predominantly carbohydrates, actually. So that's probably how you get your 50%. But going back to the yellow sections, that's what we tend to think about when we think about carbohydrates. What it says here is that you should choose whole grain. As one of my clients pointed out to me just yesterday, well, whole grains are better because what they do is everything starts as whole grain, and then when they make it white, they take all the goodness out of it. And she's absolutely right. So that is exactly what they do. So if you think about flour, it comes from wheat or rye or whatever that's grown. They then take all the starchy stuff out of it to make it white. So where you can, you should be sticking to brown versions of everything. It's up to you whether you can develop a taste for brown pasta. I'm still working on it myself, but personal opinion here, brown rice actually tastes better than white rice. So that's where you should be getting a large majority of your calories, along with fruit and veg. So fruit and veg, we know how many portions a day. Everyone knows that. It's meant to be 5 a day. I would actually add to that and say it's fruit and veg together, the 5 a day. I would change that to say 1 or 2 pieces of fruit and 3 to 4 or any number larger than that of vegetables. Because as I said, fruit contain a lot of natural sugars. It's still sugar. It's still going to give you quite a few calories. It hits your blood sugar very quickly. Starchy carbohydrates are the opposite of that. They hit the blood a lot more slowly. They keep you fuller for longer. So generally a good thing to eat. But your meals should be based around those 2 sections. So the starchy carbohydrates and the fruit and veg. Starchy carbohydrates, again, you should be aiming to eat 5 portions a day of them, as well as your 5 of fruit and veg. Okay, so the next largest section is interestingly called, I can't read it on any of mine, I can read it on my thing above, but it's interestingly called beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. I find that quite interesting because it goes for the plant-based sources of protein first. I don't know why. Most of us get our proteins from meat or fish. Obviously, if you don't eat meat or fish, then you get your proteins from plant-based sources. But I would have thought most people would get them from meat and fish. But it's very interesting, I think, that they've chosen the plant-based sources of protein, which are a lot less fatty. So back to how everything contains all of it. Your plant-based sources of protein, your beans, lentils, quinoa, chickpeas, all of that, really good sources of protein, but has a load less fat than you'll get in your meat and your fish. Then we go on to the next smallest, which is the dairy and alternatives. So if you don't actually eat dairy products, the alternatives that there are now, soya, almond, oat, they seem to make milk out of anything at the moment. They're good substitutes, and they provide us with a lot of protein. They also provide us with a lot of fat.
Do the soya drinks give you calcium as milk does?
Most of the non-dairy alternatives are fortified with calcium. They're actually fortified with other things as well, but they are always fortified with calcium. If you look on the side, I was reading the side of my Oatly this afternoon. I mean, I am mad, actually. I'm now started reading labels all the time.
So you can get your necessary fix of calcium from products that aren't necessarily milk? Yes,
the milk alternatives are a very, very good source of calcium. They do, as I say, tend to be fortified with calcium. They're fortified quite often with B12 as well, which is another vitamin that vegetarians in particular seem to be lacking.
And vitamin A, which we tend to have a lack of here. You may have noticed we don't get much sunshine.
No, that's vitamin D, David.
Sorry, vitamin D. What?
Vitamin A, I'm pointing to the carrots.
You're right.
Just
no, vitamin D.
A couple of carrots a day, you'll be fine.
Can you supplement vitamin D with any foods?
Vitamin D is very hard. Vitamin D is largely, as you rightly say, synthesized from sunlight. There are some dietary sources. You can get some from eggs and oily fish. It's not ideal. You won't get enough. It is actually recommended, government recommendation, that between March and, I've got it the wrong way around, haven't I? Between September and March, the winter months, you should actually take a supplement. It's not a massive supplement. It's about, I think it's 10 micrograms of vitamin D.
Yes, I take it. I have a deficiency, evidently, but then so do a lot of people.
So do most people in this country. It's also obviously worse in the winter because you don't get the sunlight. It's also worse with people with darker skins.
Right. Okay, sorry.
So, vitamin D is, and also as you get older, I've got a slide at the end actually about getting older, and as you get older, vitamin D becomes even more important. So I'm not casting aspersions on anyone's age, but as we get older, vitamin D becomes even more important. It works with calcium for healthy bones and teeth. It also has some effect on our immune and memory and everything like that. So it is worth having, but everyone's deficient. Thank you for pointing that out, David. Okay, so then that takes us to the tiny, tiny purple slither, and that is fats. So oils and spreads, I think they call it. So, but you're going to think, oh, but that's not my 35%. And that's because of what we've already talked about. You're going to get your fat from the pink section, your animal-based protein in particular. You're going to get your fats from the dairy section. So this is just the fat, and even porridge and bread contains fat. This is just a tiny slither that you add on. So if you do use oil for cooking, or you like a spread, or I'm not going to even say butter because please don't have butter on your toast, then that's the tiny, tiny bit that we're talking about. And it does say choose unsaturated oils. That doesn't include butter. Butter is saturated fat. We don't eat a great deal of it, luckily. So some people choose to have it, but it is saturated fat. It does put you at higher risk of heart disease. So if you do want to have a spread on your toast, you're better off having an olive oil based one. So those areas there, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas we've talked about, are what you should be eating on a day-to-day basis. That is what you should have in your diet. That's what you eat. There's this little bit down the corner here in the bottom left, which are the things we all love. And it's absolutely right. Eat less often and in small amounts. Nobody's saying don't eat it. Nobody's saying you can't ever have a bag of crisps or biscuits. And actually, the jury's out on chocolate. Probably nobody on this call except David knows that I don't eat chocolate at all. Not because it's no good for you, but because I don't like it, which is really weird, particularly for women. But if you can get the chocolate, which is, I'm told, this is all on hearsay, because I obviously don't eat it. The 70% plus cocoa sugar, chocolate, apparently well, I know it's good. It's better for you. It's actually got fibre in it, which is you're meant to have 30 grams of fibre a day, largely from your starches over here, but that's got fibre in it. It's also got some other vitamins in it. So if you can stick to the 70% and you can stick to 1 or 2 pieces, squares from the bar, then actually I think you can put that in for everyday eating. The rest of them, certainly not every day. So that's your biscuits, your crisps, your cakes, ice cream. That's a big one in this house. So those, and I love this phrase, eat less often and in small amounts. That's exactly what everything's, nobody's saying don't eat it ever again. That's what they're just saying, eat less often and in smaller amounts. It's great advice. Then there's other things. This one over here is a bit of a hobby horse of mine. Your hydration. So water, not only water, you can have milk, low-fat milk, semi-skimmed is fine, sugar-free drinks, tea and coffee all count better if they don't have caffeine, but they certainly all count towards your liquid intake. Fruit juice, yes, counts, but only once. You can have 150 mils, I think it is, of fruit juice once a day, and that counts as not only one of your 5 a day, but it also counts as some hydration. But the reason that they say limit fruit juice is because the sugar in the fruit, when it's in the fruit, is whole. It's what is called intrinsic to the cell. As soon as you break it in any way, i.e. to make juice, it makes it an extrinsic sugar and it frees it. And it makes it as bad as sucrose, which is the sugar we find in our biscuits and all the other processed food. So that's why they say limit it. So that's hydration, really important. Really, if you need to take on 2,000 calories a day, you should be drinking 2 litres of water a day. It's actually directly related to your energy requirement. So if you need to eat, if your energy requirement is 1,700, 1.7 litres a day. This bit here is just about the traffic light symbols. Food labelling is a whole subject in itself, but the traffic light is really good symbols. They're not compulsory. Not all foods have them, but it just highlights how much of the foods are meant to be bad for you. So the fat, the sugar, and the salt. So you can see there, I can't see there, but I think it's low in fat. I'm not quite sure, I can't see what the red one is. But anyway, oh yes, it's higher in sugars, that one. So where it's red, it's higher, steer away. Where it's amber, it's okay. And where it's green, you should be aiming for the greens. So that is the basis of a healthy diet. Any questions at that stage? No. Okay, so we then need to look at what a portion is. I've mentioned portions. I said 5 portions of vegetables and fruit. I said 5 portions of starchy. So what does a portion look like? So for the fruit, it's fairly easy. I've already mentioned the fruit juice. A large slice of fruit, an apple, an orange, they're all 1 portion or a small handful of the smaller fruits. That's a portion. So I think they're fairly easy to understand. So as we said, 5 a day of the fruit and veg together.
Nikki, we've got
then the vegetable, I don't even know why I'm going to talk about this. There is no limit. Please eat as much as you like. All types of vegetables. They say you should eat a rainbow. They're absolutely right. Oh, David's got a question.
Yeah,
or a hand up.
I'll
anyway.
just unmute David. Yeah. David, you should be unmuted.
Okay, this is slightly different about what you've been talking about, but you must all be under secrecy because it's about my wife. And she knew I was going to talk to her about how she'd kill me. So that's just between us.
Just between the 25 of us.
Yeah. No, she's her weight is no problem at all. She's well under double figures. She's not fat. But she's got one thing that we can't really understand. We've got scales that have got all things on it, one of which is BMI. Now her BMI is 42.
No.
And mine is, no, seriously, and mine is 30, which is, you know, mine's sort of touching obese, which I'm shocked at, but anyway. But hers doesn't make sense, does it?
It doesn't. Buy new scales.
No, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, do you think there's something wrong with it?
BMI, as I said, is a very, very crude measure. but it's not that bad. It should give you a guideline, unless she's particularly muscly, unless she pumps iron at the gym. I don't know.
Not that I know.
It should give you a better guide than that. There is no question. Do the maths.
Oh, well,
Do the weight divided by height squared, and you'll find out what your BMI is.
I've just done that. And according to this, and I knew I put weight on. See, the problem is the pandemic. It's sitting in every evening. Trying to find a restaurant or a theatre in the evening is quite difficult at the moment to go around. And according to this, for me to get back to healthy, I need to lose 1.5 stone.
What's your BMI?
900. No, it's where are we? Oh, it was 28.
28 is overweight, yes. 28
so to get to 25, I need to lose 1.5 stone.
So what is the BMI formula?
It's weight in kilogram. I've got it on one of these slides, over height squared.
So
it's weight in kilograms over height in meters squared. So you take your height, you multiply it by itself to get the squared value, and then you divide your weight in kilograms by the figure you just had.
I might have to phone you.
I might charge you.
If it's too much, deduct any number you can think of.
And then get back to the number you first thought of.
Well, while they've unmuted me, the other thing was that I got COVID a few weeks ago, and in 2 weeks, I mean, I'm slightly overweight. I mean, only very slightly, but I lost a stone in 2 weeks, really, and that was because I couldn't eat or drink anything else but water. I mean, I bet
you're not recommending it as a weight loss plan.
No, anyway, so I lost a stone. So, but I thought, right, I've lost a stone. I'm going to keep down here. But it was impossible. I mean, I was putting on certainly £1 a week.
Well, if you lost it because you were eating nothing and drinking nothing, it will go on very quickly, because it's not fat loss at that weight. It can be water loss. It can be all kinds of things. Your weight fluctuates day to day. If you don't eat anything for a couple of weeks, it's just going to go down. It won't be pure fat loss. You will lose some fat, but it won't be all fat loss. Yeah,
I think I lost bits of brain as well. They didn't come back. But...
And the other thing about vitamin D, David, is there seems to be a link between COVID and vitamin D.
Yeah, so say if you take vitamin D, you should keep it away somehow.
I don't think it's going to help. It might help. I'm not saying it won't help, because it does affect your immune system and all the rest of it. But it seems to be a link. It does seem to be a link that people are more deficient. So the advice to take the 10 micrograms of vitamin D supplement is actually probably even better at the moment.
Did you overdose on vitamin D? You took 2 tablets, or does that not benefit any way whatsoever?
No, taking more of what's recommended isn't going to help. It's vitamin D is a water-based vitamin, so it just wheezes out anyway.
Okay, pleased to know that.
I thought you might be. It won't do you any harm, David. You'll just wee it out. I should say it comes out in your urine, shouldn't I, rather than you wee it out, but never mind. Okay, so I go back to my portion sizes then. Okay, I'll carry on, but this slide is irrelevant. I don't know why I put it in. You cannot have too much vegetables, too many vegetables. I was talking about having a rainbow. They say you used to eat rainbow. It's right when it comes to fruit and veg. Different vitamins are in different coloured vegetables. It's as simple as that. Vitamin A is good for night vision. So when your mother told you that vitamin carrots help you see in the dark, she wasn't lying. I eat a lot of carrots, but it still doesn't help me see my black dog at night. But never mind, that's my problem. But she seems to be able to see me. So that's carrots, obviously orange, beta carotene, a good source of vitamin A, and vitamin K, very dark green vegetables, you tend to get vitamin K in. So all these things have different vitamins in them Where's Phil gone? Okay, so moving on, probably more informatively about what is a healthy portion of carbs. So we've talked about these starchy carbs quite a lot now. They are all the brown version of where we can get it. And I think I've already said you should be eating 5 portions of this a day. So what a portion looks like is actually more important for these, because it's going to form a lot of our diet. So we should be being aware of what those portion sizes are. So they're not huge, but you get 5 a day, so it's not that bad. It's a slice of bread, half a bagel, a handful of cereal. Nobody eats 1 Weetabix, but luckily you can have 5 if that's all you eat. There's rice, which is white rice. I'm surely could have got a picture of brown rice. And we've got all kinds of coloured pasta there. But again, 2 to 3 tablespoons of cooked pasta. So they're quite small, but you add them all together, I guess that's what is about a third of your diet. Protein kind of looks even smaller, actually. We've got our card pack there. This is either meat or oily fish. So oily fish is the salmon, fresh tuna, mackerel. So again, it's not huge. 2 eggs is a portion, and 4 tablespoons of beans. That's the plant-based sources of protein. You get more of your white fish, your cod, in your plate, providing it's not fried. 150 grams, about the size of a checkbook, if anyone remembers what they look like. And dairy, you should be having 2 to 3 portions of dairy a day, or as David pointed out, the non-dairy substitutes. So that is 30 grams of cheese, which is as it says there, the size of a small box of matches. It's ample for a sandwich. Or if you grate it, it goes even further on a salad. A normal pot of yogurt and 200 mils of milk, which again, try to keep it semi-skimmed. So basically, that is what a balanced diet looks like. I've got a few tips on managing your weight there, which is grill, steam or poach instead of frying, i.e. trying to cut down on the oil we use is really what that's about, or fry with less oil or roast with less oil. Cut off all visible fats. I mean, the word about fat, we've talked quite a lot about it, some good, some bad. The difference between fat and the other 2 macronutrients is that protein and carbohydrates both are, for every gram you eat, you are consuming 4 calories. For fats, they are 9 calories per gram. So for every gram you eat of fats, you're going to consume over twice as many calories. So worth thinking about then. That's why we always say cut down on the fats. We've talked about butter. Measuring oil is absolutely imperative because you can use way more than you need and way more than you think you're using. Lower fat dairy products we've talked about. I think we've talked about most of these. I've talked about saturated fats, talked about trans fats. Know your portion sizes. Well, if you didn't before, you probably do now. And fill half your plate with vegetables is always a good tip. Use herbs and spices instead of salt. We haven't really talked about salt, but really, if we can avoid adding salt at the table or even in cooking, it's so much the better. It does harden your arteries and can lead, therefore, to heart disease. Keep hidden sources of saturated fat to a minimum. The hidden sources, as I think I've said, are in processed food. Biscuits, pies, things like that will have hidden sources of saturated fat. One for edgeware here. I don't know what your kiddish used to be like, but
kiddish, that's a thing of the past.
I said it used to be like, I don't know. Yeah. I know that the Scotch goes quicker than the kiddish wine in Bushy. I don't know what it's like.
One day.
Well, when we can get back to our Scotch, it hasn't stopped drinking our scotch.
So we should remind Phil that he's got a bar mitzvah in a few weeks. Get the whiskey in, Phil.
I say it's such a shame none of you can drink it, but there we go.
You don't have to save the best stuff back then, do you?
Exactly.
So alcohol, it's a choice. All of this is a choice. You choose what you want to spend your calories on. The idea of a healthy and nutritious diet is you get the most nutrients from the calories you consume. Alcohol doesn't have any nutrients, but it does have calories. It's your choice. If you want to spend some calories on alcohol within limits, it's not going to do you any harm at all. So 14 units a week is what the government say for men and women now. They've changed the guidelines. It used to be more for men and less for women, but 14 units a week. You're not allowed to save it all up for the weekend and then drink your 14 units in one go. You're supposed to have your 14 units spread over at least 3 days. Doesn't mean it's compulsory to drink on 3 days a week either, but if you're going to have your 14 units, you should spread it out.
If somebody only has 2 or 3 units a week, the recommendation is to increase it to 14.
Absolutely, and then spread it out all over the week, yes. No, maximum of 14 units a week.
Okay.
Maximum of 14 units a week. It's the information you need is probably on the slide, because a unit is not a lot. A unit is, as we said there, 25 milliliters of spirit is one pub measure. I don't know if you have measures at home. We do, but I never use a single measure.
What's the pub?
What's the pub as well? Yes. You have to get the measures. It's tiny. The unit's that much. So what's the scotch? Again, it's a tiny amount of scotch. Wine, 75 milliliters. I mean, it's not even half a normal glass of wine. Is 1 unit. So you're automatically, every time you have a glass of wine, you're drinking 2 units, 2.5 units. It adds up. And 220 milliliters of beer, I mean, it's less than half a pint. A unit is not a lot. So if you think you're having a pint of beer, you think you're having a scotch or a glass of wine, you will be drinking more than 1 unit. So, and while I was talking about calories per gram, so protein, carbs, 4 calories per gram, fat, 9 calories a gram, alcohol comes in at 7. So it's higher than your proteins and your carbs. That moves nicely on to watching the calories. I've just given a few examples because that's the easiest way of getting your head around it. Again, a measure of spirit, so your small pub measure of spirit is 56 calories. 125 milliliters of white wine, which used to be called a small glass of wine. I don't think they even serve them anymore. You usually get 175 milliliters of wine. For white wines, 83, and red wines, 56 calories for that tiny glass of wine. That adds up. And also, it's worth saying that when I say the calories per gram, that is only the alcohol. These are the measures for the whole drink, because wine and beer has calories in the drink as well as in the alcohol. So what if you go over 14 units a week? It's not great, really. If you consistently drink over what you should be drinking, regularly drinking more than 14 units a week has been seen to increase the risk of cancers, stroke, liver disease is an obvious one, coronary heart disease, reduced bone density, fertility issues, dementia, and stomach ulcers. So it's not a pretty list. But the good news, as there always is moderate drinking within those guidelines gives you no adverse effects whatsoever. So again, if you're going to drink moderately, it's a choice. You just make your choices. So that's what I'm going to say about alcohol. So I've now covered nutrition. I haven't talked about smoking much, apart from to say it's the biggest cause right back in the beginning. I just linked it to cancer at the beginning, didn't I? But that's the only time it's really been mentioned. So we're now back to the balance, and the last thing I haven't spoken about is physical activity. So this is the other side of the equation. This is when you're using up what you've put in. So what is the right amount? The right amount is 30 minutes of moderate activity at least 5 times a week. At least 5 times a week. And moderate activity should be if it makes you a little bit sweaty, or actually, or you get slightly out of breath. It's going to be things like walking fairly quickly, I suppose vigorous gardening or housework, dancing, all of those. Even walking up and down the stairs a few times is going to count. So any activity you do, be as active as you can. You should be aiming for that. Most healthy people should be able to do 30 minutes of moderate activity a day. But be as active as you can. I know it's difficult as we get older. Listen to what your body's telling you. The main thing I can say is try to avoid being sedentary for long periods. And I know we're all doing that at the moment. You know, we find ourselves on Zoom calls and we're sat down for an hour and a half. First thing you want to do after that is just at least walk around the house or walk around the garden or do something, because being sedentary for long periods of time is really not good. And whatever activity you can do is better than nothing. Final thing, just a few things as I promised that we said we'd look before we go about, basically as we get older. They're important anyway, but as we get older they become more. This is your vitamin D there. Look after your bones, David. So calcium and vitamin D, I think we've spoken quite a lot about those already. Protect your heart. I've talked about unsaturated fats. I haven't actually mentioned omega-3, which is a particular fatty acid that we get from oily fish. And that is really important. It can't be produced by the body. Omega-3 and omega-6 you'll hear called the essential fatty acids. They can't be produced by the body, so we have to eat them, basically. And they have beneficial effects on memory and mood. And also, as I said there, are essential for protecting your heart because they are polyunsaturated fats. So they help with the heart and really important, actually. Omega-3 and omega-6. Limit the salt, we've talked about that already in relation to protecting your heart. But the unsaturated fats, as I said, they actually reduce the bad cholesterol in your body and they increase the good cholesterol. So they're a good thing to have. Help your muscles, look after your muscles. Muscles do waste as you get older. So obviously the proteins are needed to help maintain muscle mass. Usually, as I've said, it's 15%. You can increase that as you get older. Most people have way more than that anyway, so it's probably not a question of increasing it. Gut health, fibre we haven't mentioned very much. You're meant to have 30 grams of fibre a day. The average in this country is 18 grams, which is pretty appalling, really. But if you have your 5 a day and you have your 5 portions of your brown rice, pasta, wholemeal bread, and all that kind of stuff, fibre really shouldn't be a problem. Blood health, iron. We haven't talked about iron very much at all. Iron transports oxygen around the body. It's absolutely imperative for the formation of red blood cells. So to have healthy blood, you have to get the right amount of iron. Iron, for most people, is not a problem in terms of what we eat. But it's absorbing it that seems to be the problem. So if you are going to have iron, spinach contains iron, some red meats contain iron, a lot of breakfast cereals are fortified with iron. So make sure you have some vitamin C or A with it. So you can have your glass of orange juice with your fortified breakfast cereal. And that helps the absorption. Things that stop our absorption are called phosphates, and the main type of those are tea and coffee. So they really can affect it. So leave a couple of hours before, either between your coffee and your fortified breakfast cereal. That is all I have to say. So thank you for listening. Any further questions would be welcome. And I'll just flash onto that slide.
Well, first
my
of all,
contact details.
I can say that I now understand why I put on weight. Everything you've said that we shouldn't do, I do, and everything that we should do, I don't. So, but apart from that, everything works with me. So I probably need to change slightly. The one question I've got is organic food. Anything that's organic, is it more nutritious, or is that a fallacy?
It's not a fallacy. It's purer. So you might not get additives on it from crop fertilizers and things like that probably don't do as much harm. It is a bit purer for certain things. Typically, if you eat an organic apple or you eat a non-organic apple, they have the same vitamins. It's not going to be that much. Marginally, maybe so. But I would never say in the way I say drink skim milk because it's healthier than full fat milk. I would never say eat organic produce because it's healthier than non-organic.
Right. So along the same lines, are artificial sweeteners better than sugar?
And now artificial sweeteners, the jury is definitely out on artificial sweeteners. There is no hard evidence to suggest that they, in the main, aspartame and all these other ones are cause you any damage to health. I don't think they do you any good. It's probably neutral, but the jury is definitely out. But there is no evidence to suggest they do you any harm. Better that you try and do without sugar completely. But really, if you like a little bit of sweetness in your tea and coffee, then that's fine. It's better than having sucrose, 100% better.
Right. And also as a comparison, fresh vegetables versus frozen vegetables. I've heard that frozen peas are supposed to be better, but you tell me.
No, they are absolutely the same. They do the freezing process is really good actually. Things about fruit and veg is they have a lot of vitamins, as I've already mentioned. Particularly the water-soluble vitamins do deteriorate with handling. So if we can get them frozen and packed up before they get on that truck or that plane or that ship or whatever, then that stops the deterioration of the vitamins. If you've got a fresh produce and it has to come all the way from Timbuktu or whatever, the vitamins are diminishing the longer it's held. So it's not only that moldy carrot in the bottom of the fridge, that aging process starts from the minute it's picked. So actually capturing it and freezing it early on can possibly maintain the vitamins in it. So don't be shy of frozen vegetables.
Okay. And then also linked to that, if you boil vegetables, does it remove the nutrients?
Yes, to some extent it does. Again, it doesn't remove them, but it diminishes them. For water-soluble vitamins, any kind of handling or cooking will diminish the nutrients. However, that doesn't mean they're not going to do you any good because there'll still be plenty left. It does mean it'll be less than eating the raw. So if you eat salad, if you eat raw carrots, then they're going to be more nutrient dense than the cooked versions.
Right. Okay. Phil, is there anybody on?
So no questions yet, but if you want to put up your virtual hand or put a question in the chat, and I will relay it.
Shall I stop sharing now then?
If you want to.
Okay. Yeah,
that's fine.
Everyone's obviously committed the slide to memory, haven't they? So that's okay.
There we go.
Oh, somebody has a hand up. There are two people with hands up.
Well, there's there's two non-virtual hands up.
Oh, real hands.
You need to tell me the real hands then, because I can't see the pictures.
Stanley.
Right, so you've got Catherine Brown and you've got Stanley Russell.
I'll do Stanley first. So Stanley, your line is unmuted.
It's not actually.
Right now, I pressed it for him to unmute. There we go.
Hey.
Could I possibly see the screen with the BMI formula calculation again.
You want the BMI again? I will tell it to you because otherwise I'm going to have to start staring at my screen again. It is weight in kilograms.
If you can show the screen, I'll find.
I've just stopped sharing, but I can share again if you want me to.
Well,
Share,
this won't take a second.
presentation, share. Okay, here we go again. I'll go right back. Hey, that was it, wasn't it? There you go. So it's the weight in kilograms divided by the height in meters squared.
Thank you.
There you go. Is anyone going to refer to anything? I'm going to stop sharing again.
Probably only when you stop sharing, then there'll be a question.
But it didn't take long to get back on, did it? So it was okay. Thank you, Stanley.
And then Catherine Brown, Phil.
Yeah, I'll bring Catherine in, no problem.
Catherine Brown.
Okay, Catherine, if you press up, unmute.
Now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can now, yep.
Is there any benefit in the way we eat our meals? For example, if we so-called 3 meals a day, or if we have small meals more often?
Yes, this is a good point actually, and it's people say different things. Basically, it's around the more you put in and the energy balance that I talked about right at the beginning. I always advise that don't eat 2 hours within 2 hours before bedtime. I'm actually a great believer in 3 meals a day and trying not to snack. The main reason for that is because snacks tend to be the unhealthy things. But if you can find good snacks and it makes it easier for you to get between lunch and dinner, then that's fine. Rice cakes and peanut butter is a nice one. Rice cakes and hummus, you know, even a piece of toast are all good things to eat. So I don't mind if people find it easier to do that. For me, it works better if I do 3 meals a day and nothing else. So you can take your choices, but I do believe that you shouldn't, and it's pretty proven that you shouldn't eat very near to going to bed, because obviously you're taking on that energy and then doing nothing with it.
Some people say as you get older, well, I'm getting older anyway, but that you can't tolerate the same kind of sized meal as you did when you were younger, so that there might be a risk of taking less nutrients in.
Yeah, you certainly have less energy requirements because you don't use as much.
Yeah, little more often, it keeps your metabolism rate going.
It does depend what you eat. If you eat the starchy carbohydrates, then you will be slower to digest them, so they should last longer anyway. Your body is digesting all the time anyway, so it's up to you. But if people feel more comfortable eating little and often, then that's fine. If people feel more comfortable not eating between meals, it gives you a chance to completely sort of clear out your system, then that's fine as well. As I say, the only caveat I put on that is don't eat too late at night. Oh, David again. Does that answer your question, Catherine?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Right.
I think David had his hand up.
Oh, okay.
Who, me?
No, Oliver.
David Oliver. Okay.
I think so. Did you, David?
I've unmuted him, so we'll find out.
Okay, maybe I'll finish it off. This is the most difficult question. It's a statement, but it'll be a question. Chocolate. You didn't mention it.
I did mention chocolate.
Did you?
You said don't.
Oh.
I didn't say don't.
Yeah, well, don't. But, you know,
I didn't say
problem
don't.
is most Jewish people are chocolate. There's a few different words, but anyway, we all love chocolate. We all eat it. The problem is there's absolutely no substitute. If you need a bar of dairy milk or something, there's not a substitute for it, is there?
No, it's a difficult question. You're talking to the wrong person, because as I did say when I did mention chocolate, I also told everyone that I don't like chocolate. Never
You
have.
don't?
No,
No.
no.
Really?
So much so that at one of David's daughter's engagement parties, they had these lovely strawberry tarts.
Oh.
And I popped one in my mouth because they're only like this, and only to discover that the pastry was lined with chocolate. Well, it wasn't pretty. Luckily, there was a napkin to hand.
I don't remember that. I really don't remember that.
Thank God. But yes, I really don't like it. But anyway, you're talking to the wrong person. But
You're lucky. You're lucky, actually.
Chocolate, I understand, is addictive. Yes. Talking to my daughter who does like chocolate, what I said before was that the 70% plus, you know, you can get the really dark chocolate. That is better for you because it doesn't have so much fat in it. And I'm also told it's quite bitter, so it doesn't, you can eat less of it. So I think that's a trick for actually eating chocolate or getting away with eating a little bit of chocolate. But the dairy milk, I think, is a bit of a no-no, but little and not so often. What's the phrase? Eat little less often and in small amounts.
David, try American chocolate. That tends to froth in your mouth and you won't eat anymore.
You'll never eat it again. Yes, it's I don't think we've got any Americans on here, so okay. But yes, it's an acquired taste, I think is what we call it.
Yes. The trouble is, Nicky, that all the bad foods are extremely Moorish.
That is the
start
problem.
off them,
Fat
and
is
you
extremely Moorish.
and I can never actually put half a packet away of anything.
No, it's fat. That is what fat does for you. Fat is incredibly satisfying. It does keep you full up, and you do want more of it. That is what fat is about. But as I said, it's a lot of calories. You get a lot less fat for your calories.
Yeah,
It's self-control.
Yeah, but we are living longer, aren't we?
We are living longer, yes.
I'm not sure that's related to chocolate, though, David.
With some of us.
Somebody else, Phil.
I've unmuted Viv's line to Viv.
Oh, hi, yeah. I find it really difficult because I can't eat vegetables because I've got Crohn's. So it limits what you can eat. Anything that needs digesting. And I'm extremely bad because I should eat meat and everything, and I don't cook or anything. I've had a brain hemorrhage, so I have no taste or smell. So I'm getting told off because I don't eat. Yeah. And when you say you don't have no motivation or planning from a brain hemorrhage, people will turn around and say, oh, you're lazy. And I think, oh my God, my brain's been opened. You can't explain it, but it limits it what you can eat because, say, for instance, no vegetables, fine. High cholesterol, no, I've got very high cholesterol. No butter, no this, no salt. There's nothing left. I give up sometimes.
Yeah,
I just give up.
It's not easy, particularly when you have medical conditions.
Yes, I have to say, I know all the things that you're not allowed to eat, like nuts, cashew nuts. I'm going to eat them.
Why are you not allowed to eat nuts? Nuts are very good for you.
Because digesting with Crohn's.
Oh, it's the Crohn's. Okay, fine. For medical conditions, but on the whole, nuts are very good for you.
Yes. So in the end, I just think, oh, I've had enough. If I fancy something, I'll have it.
Yeah. Well, good for you, because probably the malnutrition is more of your problem than the overweight.
You made me laugh because I got post-traumatic epilepsy. So from all the medication for that, I'm not allowed alcohol. That was the time I actually left it. So the minute, I think it was David said about drinking, I thought the same thing. Oh, I'm not drinking enough.
That's the problem. 14 units a week.
I thought, oh, I'm going to have few more glasses. Thank you.
Thank you, Viv.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I
think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done.
75 minutes in. I'd like to thank Nicky for being with us this evening. Thank you, Nicky. Very interesting. You've made me feel really bad.
Sorry.
The diet starts tomorrow. I'm going away to have a bag of crisps. I'm going to have my last bag of crisp, bar of chocolate, and 3 bottles of whiskey now. But yes, the diet will start tomorrow. But thank you very much for that. It's very informative, and I hope everybody else has found it that way, and I'm sure they have. It's been an enjoyable evening. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for travelling over from Bushy. Thank you all for being here this evening and joining us. And as I always say, I wish you all well. And you should take care, you should be well, and your families as well. And please join us next week. As I say, that we have an activist speaking on the plight of the Uyghurs. It's been mentioned there's genocide towards the Uyghurs in China, and the discussion will be on that point. And obviously it's fairly poignant, the fact that today is Holocaust Memorial Day. So that's something we will discuss then. And we look forward to having this lady. Her name is Rahima Mahmoud. She is a Uyghur human rights activist. And and I've heard her speak before, and it's extremely interesting. And but again, I come back and I say thank you, Nicky, and thank you everybody else, but particularly Nicky for giving us such an informative talk and making us all feel bad. And we will all feel better in the future because we're all going to eat far more healthily. And my BMI is going to, I've got 1.5 stones to lose, so it begins tomorrow. So thank you, everybody, and good night. And Phil, I'll pass over to you.
Okay, I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank you, David. Thank you very much, Nicky, for very informative.